top right-hand corner, representing Team Clash. He is the Ukrainian Pro Tour player, the King of Kyiv. It's Hellraiser. Don't say his city's name wrong or I'll come for you.
And at the bottom left, we have from Team Wardy, it's the red Protoss player, it's Rail.
Ooh, yeah. Representing Wardy TV, Rail's been really good this
event. I like King of Kiev. I was trying to think of like something for Rail right? That we like. The R of Russia, like Rail, the something of Russia. What? It's hard, isn't it? Like,
yeah, I can't think.
Royalty of Russia. It's not quite as good, but like it works. It works.
I think with Hellraiser it works specifically well because he's so like, you know, if you type the city's name in the Russian way, he like breaks your legs and murders your family and stuff. So I always like to make sure I do him a little bit of justice. Now PvP is the matchup that I probably know the most about and can pretend to be intelligent about. We are having standard openings. The first real variation in this game is going to come after that. Cybernetics core comes out. Where is the second pylon going? Now, it looks like Rail is moving out of a probe to a slightly hidden direction here, Penguin. Hellraiser so far has not scouted, has not moved out. And I imagine from Hellraiser, the pylon's going at home.
Yeah, so this may be a proxy pylon here from Rail for some kind of a proxy robo, proxy Stargate, something like that. It also could be him just sending the probe around to double check whether or not a Nexus comes down, wanting to play a little bit more safe. But actually, given where this is, this looks like proxy DT. Ooh, right?
It could
like,
be
I guess it could go Stargate. It could go Stargate.
It's definitely not Robo, I'd say, because Robo you generally want to be close enough for the Immortal to get there. It's the same
actually,
distance.
I think it is Stargate, just based on the gas count. Watch me be wrong.
No,
watch me be wrong.
It's Stargate. It's Stargate.
Oh, no. It's he's making a sentry and a stalker at home as well as warp gate. So I think he is going to go for a Twilight Council here. Or he's just faking a proxy and just wants to make sure that Hellraiser pops in and sees not the right number of pylons, but I think he is going to go for the Twilight Council here. We're just both idiots. All right, let's wrap it up. End the stream. We're done here.
Okay, so let's think
expert
about this.
Analysis from us.
What is this? Because this isn't going to be Immortal. There's just no way. What it could be is a very quick prism. And an extra gateway and 3-gate prism all in. Maybe he looks like he's going to take an expansion actually.
You can make 3-gate stalker pressure work with an expansion behind it. Yeah. Although he's getting another sentry. This is so weird, dude. What?
Yeah, I have no idea. I've not seen any builds.
It's not gonna be this. I don't like. I want to just get out in front of everyone and just like say it's not gonna be this. But I want it so badly to just be like a Wings of Liberty sentry drop.
Oh, that'd be so fun. So, what's going to start up first here from this robo? So far, nothing. Well, that's good.
It has to be a prism.
What?
Oh,
he's making Immortals there. This is crazy. Hallucinated Phoenix is getting the full scouts here. One interesting thing is that Hellraiser didn't scout a bloody thing this game. He has not left his base except for this first Hallucinated Phoenix. He is now, a lot in terms of tech, not taking anything. He's played very economically here. You can see his natural is a bit quicker. His probe count is, of course, higher. And that's all because he's not throwing down tech. Usually, it would be a robo, coming down after this. So, it's just going to be like Immortal drop. Proxy Immortal.
Yeah, so I feel like just to explain to the folks at home why we were very sure that this was not going to be Immortals. It's just not as good on paper to build Immortals from this far away with a proxy robo. Now, the upside is, of course, that if Hellraiser had checked for robo spots, he would not have seen this. No. But given that Hellraiser cut that corner, I mean, it's also only one Immortal. This is a really, really weird. He's going to make another Immortal, but like this is super weird. We do have 2 Adepts that just came out from Hellraiser, which is not going to help him in this defense. I mean...
Game resumed.
This is a weird build. It's going to be kind of tough. Even with that shield battery, I feel like with Overcharge, he'll be okay. Yeah. But he's only got enough for 1 right now. If he chrono boosts that Nexus, he's going to be in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, this is actually completely catching Hellraiser off guard. There's a lot of sentries here too. There's a prism coming up behind this. We're going to see a force field on the ramp, I think, and possibly a big attack in the main, including dropping that prism in the main.
A lot of units.
This is a lot of units, and they're completely unseen.
There's another Immortal coming in to back this up. For now, though, it looks like Rail's going to be pushing on in with just that initial Immortal. The force fields go down. The micro begins with the Warp Prism. Probe's already coming off the line. And well, that shield battery's out of energy. 3 more building at the moment. But for now, there's nothing in the way of healing as this second Immortal from Rail is coming on in to assist this push.
Yeah, now Hellraiser's Immortal is here. How much energy does he have? He still has enough for a super battery. And that doesn't matter really when it comes to energy and stuff because it's just so broken. 4 probes have gone down, meaning right now in terms of workers, Hellraiser is still massively ahead. If Hellraiser can get a second Immortal out, continue to warp in at home, he now has 4 batteries. You can't break this position, can you?
I really don't know. I kind of would have liked even maybe a ferry into the main, but for now, a lot of damage onto that Immortal as Hellraiser's Immortal falls. And there's just so much damage output here. The batteries are running out of energy. A second Immortal on the high ground is there, but it's just not enough. Rail... Oh, man, I was just checking at his base just before the end of that push. Complete fake expansion. 0 probes mining the minerals there. Entirely there to throw off Hellraiser. And that was just an exceptionally mind-gamey game. He went for a build. It's like, it's a little bit on the wonky side. Obviously, like, Proxy Immortal is a thing, but we don't usually see it done in that way. We don't see it in that position. We don't see it with that unit composition. And... with that Natural Nexus, we did see Hellraiser move out across the map with a couple of Adepts. He did see that Nexus. So for him, that immediately signals, okay, this is probably pressure. Even with the Immortals, like, that's still scary, but he probably wasn't expecting it to be that committed. And just a really quick game from Rail, and that's it's kind of what we expected here from our Russian PvP experts. And I mean, it's Rail likes a fast game if he can get that on his side.
That was absolutely wild. I do think there was maybe a couple of mistakes from Hellraiser. He got that Immortal out, and it was only in range of 1 battery, which means his Immortal went down just pure to the down. There was just so much DPS that 1 battery couldn't keep the Immortal alive. If maybe he'd saved his super battery a little bit longer as well, to when there were 3 batteries and a super battery, he may have been able to survive that long. I'm not certain.
I feel like the issue really was, and I think also just Hellraiser just, while he had the good healing power, he had 5 sentries there. I'm seeing the delay on the stream now. His army, when he had those additional batteries, was an Immortal, a Stalker, and 5 sentries. So even with all that healing power, there's just no damage output in that army.
Yeah. And we had the Prism as well, dancing in and out of any units that got very low for Rail. He was able to keep everything alive. I don't think he lost a unit in the fight because the Prism could just save everything.
Yep.
Crazy game 1, Stefan. And we're getting into game 2. Stefan, why don't you introduce our first player this time?
In the bottom left of Eternal Empire, another quite pretty map, we've got our Blue Protoss player from Clash. He is the King of Kiev. It's Hellraiser.
My boy Bogdan. And his opponent in the top right, playing for Team Wardy in the red, representing Russia. He is the Protoss player. Leading this series, it's Rail. Okay, so what... I feel like Eternal Empire is such a good proxy Stargate map as well. There's so many locations because the map is so wide as opposed to like long, where you can hide a pylon in like either the bottom right hand side down here towards, if you're say Rail doing it in the very south side.
I also think there's a very nice spot in sort of the 3 and the 9 o'clock locations as well. Obviously that gives you more access to the natural expansion, but there's definitely a lot of areas where proxies can be quite strong on this map. That being said, just the sheer size of it and the narrowness of the chokes around those first 3 bases mean that if you can survive that really early stage of the game, get up to 2 bases quite safely, get a little bit of an army up, all of a sudden you're very well set up for the late game. And while Hellraiser is a guy who has been known to be quite aggressive, between these 2 players, I would argue that he is probably the one that feels more comfortable in the late game. So I think that he'll probably be looking to sort of get the momentum on his side, maybe see if he can push through and get an early win, but more likely than not, his priority will be not dying as opposed to killing Rail quite quickly.
Yeah, and we see both pylons going down at home, certainly indicating so far that things are going to be relatively normal on at least the 1 base phase of the game. Neither player has committed to any proxies, and I'd like to see this go long. I feel like, especially here, like you said in Eternal Empire, once you get 2 bases and you have Immortal Archon or, that kind of composition, it's very easy to get free, move up into the Robotics Bay side of things, and then you get some wicked games on this map. We are seeing Rail go out for a scout. Hellraiser again playing completely blind. That takes some cojones.
Especially after that last game.
Yeah.
Now, he is going for a third pylon down here on the low ground, which means that he's definitely setting himself up to put that Nexus down, as well as to throw down a shield battery a little bit earlier. But we do have Rail moving around the sides of the map here. Is he going to be trying to set up an early proxy pylon? It's not going to be quite as early as in the last game. He's already got a Stargate coming up at home, but perhaps he looks to go for a pylon and a gateway and go for a 1-base, 3-gate Stargate kind of all in. Looks like for now he just is going to be content to check the watchtower and then probably just go confirm the existence of that Nexus, as we have a couple of Adepts moving across the map for Hellraiser. And yeah, I mean, everything seems to be pretty well set up defensively for Rail as long as he hits gets the pylon down with that probe, and there we go.
Yeah, perfect defense so far. I think Rail was very, very scared of a possibility of a proxy Stargate. You can see as well where he put his third pylon, right in that north corner of the map. So if a Stargate were to come in, he'd have that extra second and a half to scout it. If there was anything suspicious coming, he'd see it. Rail this game seems to be playing very safe. Hellraiser as well obviously isn't committing to anything crazy. Both players are just scouting. You see a Twilight Council go down here for Hellraiser, which is great. Into the Stargate play, as long as you identify and don't take too much damage from the Oracles. I like Hellraiser's and where he's going so far in this game.
Now, something that is of note is that, speaking of the Oracle, Hellraiser is going to spot Rails, and he actually forces a recall out there with that Oracle. Gets a kill as well. I would say that's a pretty solid trade there for Rail. I mean, obviously, you would like the Oracle, ideally, to get a bunch of worker kills, but getting a unit, forcing out some energy, and maintaining the Oracle at full HP is pretty decent. We always say, while you want to get that early damage done with the Oracle, in a perfect world, as long as the Oracle is alive, it's perfectly capable of paying for itself over time, and it's going to get another Adept kill here, just really hurting that map presence for Hellraiser.
Yeah, and I think for Rail right now, seeing that he has slowed down this this map presence and this maneuverability of Hellraiser's army, you can see he's throwing down a Forge, and I really wouldn't be surprised to see him throw down a third at like the 5-minute mark and just really go, okay, I'm playing this out. A couple of Adepts coming forward once again, they're going to get picked off. If I'm Rail right now, I know I'm ahead. Resources lost tab 3 to nothing. He's going to be able to push this one away. I don't think it dies. That goes into the natural where it dies. Sentries! Oh, does he get a kill though? Hey!
Constellation probe.
Oh god, is he going to get 2?
Nah. Rail's too good for that, microing that probe away. Now, I feel like, I mean, I was hyping up how Rail likes to be the more aggressive player. Honestly, there are two sort of ways that he can play this from here. I really doubt he just kind of goes for it, because, as we've said, he's so far ahead at this point that he could just play the macro game out and get himself into a really good position to go for either a +2 push off sort of 3 bases. I mean, honestly, a +1 push off of the 2 bases wouldn't be the worst idea either. He's likely to be able to sort of skyrocket and do one of those sort of a bit of a gateway explosion, if you will, and try to hit with 7-8 gates if he so desires. He's about to have a second Immortal out already, which does give him a little bit of an advantage over his opponent, as Hellraiser doesn't have any Immortals. He doesn't even have a Robo yet.
No. And this is the way Bogdan's played quite a lot. He plays Roboless, he plays Mass Blink Stalker, Zealot Charge, many Zealots, and gets lots of Archons early. And you can see, as I say that, he does throw down his Templar Archives and a few more gateways. You can see Rail adding on 4 gateways now, puts him up to a total of, I believe, 6. Yep, so he's moving up now. He'll certainly be looking to take a 3rd base very soon. He could, if we saw a couple more gateways, we maybe see some aggression. In fact, it looks like the gateway count is going to go in favor of Hellraiser, moving up to 7, and that is a more aggressive count. 7 is higher than 6 last time I checked, but we do have a prism on the way for Rail.
Cast or Curse strikes, 2 more gateways come in for Rail, and really, and with this advantage, I mean, obviously Hellraiser over time will be able to get quite a lot of Archons out, but we're still in that sort of position where Rail does have the advantage as far as army composition goes in these earlier stages. He's going to pick up another bit of an advantage, getting another free Stalker. I think what we may even see is Rail throw down this 3rd, and then just kind of posture with his army. If he sees an opening, he goes for it. If he doesn't, that's fine. He can sort of contain Hellraiser, make sure that at the very least he delays the 3rd base, make sure that he has as much of an economic advantage as he possibly can. And in the meantime, I do like the way Hellraiser's playing this. I like having a little bit of a group of 4 Stalkers out. That's exactly how many you need for one-shot probes. The problem is that Rail has been so on top of everything this game. He has looked really quite impeccable on his defense, and there's been not a single opening for Hellraiser to exploit.
No, Rail's only small mistake was that one probe dying, and that's really picking at hairs if we're saying that's a mistake, because there was the Adept coming in. Oh, this is cute as well. You can see Rail here dropping down the stasis ward to make sure the third can't be taken anytime soon. It's going to force another probe to come down. It buys a lot of time here. A few
could have been worse.
Could
have been worse.
Yeah.
It's always nice when the probe itself is blocking the Nexus.
Yes. But Rail, he seems to be playing really well. One thing I will say is upgrades favor Hellraiser. +2 is already almost halfway done, and we haven't seen that started yet from Rail.
Yeah, that really kind of implies that Rail wants to get something done here. And Rail's no longer producing probes. He's cut the probe count at 50, for now at least. He's warping in his own Archons. He's not going to have quite as many, but he does have that Immortal count to bolster his own damage output. And here, I mean, I don't know how this is exactly going to go. He does have a little bit of an army advantage. He has some good splash with those Archons, but he finds his way onto the high ground. There's not going to be an advantage on that choke for Hellraiser, and now he spreads out, gets the Guardian Shield down. He's going to be able to deny this third very, very easily. The question is really, though, how does the army fight go? There's a cancel on that base, no kill, and Hellraiser does not want to commit into this. He's pulling back, and this is where Rail could he's very free to just start droning up again, start probing up, but he's just going to go on in with a push.
Yeah, he's going to commit, and the Zealots get such a great wraparound here, Penguin. Zealot charge finally finishes here for Hellraiser, and the Zealot fight's getting in. It looks like the Archons have much better surface area here for Rail. Immortals in the back dishing out damage that Hellraiser isn't able to get. The Super Battery, though, working wonders. You can see even the Oracle working overtime to try and make this fight work. It looks like when all is said and done, Hellraiser will defend, but he did lose his third. Meanwhile, Rail is probing up behind this. As long as he saves, things like the Prism, the Immortals, this is nice. I think this isn't the worst thing that Rail could have done.
Yeah, if we factor in the kill on the third, I would say that was okay, depending on obviously if he can defend. But that army fight went very, very poorly for him. Even though he had that really nice position, +2 finished in the middle of that fight, or even maybe a little bit before that fight went down. And that super battery that you mentioned, and even the reinforcing Archons, Rail decided to warp in some Archons to reinforce, which, while, yes, that is better for the army composition, it takes a little while for them to get into the fight. You've got to morph the Archon, then they're stuck in the back, they don't really have great range. A couple of things that Rail could have done better, but at the end of the day, things are going to sort of normalize here with a relatively even supply. Rail still ahead. The third base is still not done here for Hellraiser. And at the end of the day, given that he didn't die to a counter push, I think Rail will be okay with the way that went down. But he has only just now started his +2.
Yeah, he's a full upgrade behind at this point, Penguin. Now, the best thing going for Rail right now is that he has 2 more gas geysers. He will instantly saturate those, I imagine, because Archons are going to be very, very important for him. He knows there's no Immortals on his opposition side of the field, so if you can get a lot of Archons and just have that massive advantage, the mass charge Zealot style really falls off quite badly. So we are going to see that, more gateways being added as well for Rail, and he's setting up some static defense. I love that, because we are at the time of the game when DTs could have been a threat. Meanwhile, though, Hellraiser, he's going for the big boy play. We're going to see some disruptors.
We are, and honestly, as you were mentioning, Rail going to be needing more and more Archons to make this army sort of worth its weight. But I feel like, really, the Immortals aren't good against anything in the army that Hellraiser has. So I kind of wish that, this is exactly what I was going to say. I want him to load up a War Prism with a couple of Immortals, because that's just better. I mean, if you can at least try to hold Hellraiser back if he pushes, he needs to buy time for that +2. I mean, even then, it's going to finish the same time as +3. Honestly, Rail just needs to try not to take a fight for the next 5 minutes or so until his own +3 is done, realistically. But I like the idea to move out with this War Prism. I like that he's posturing with his army, just kind of signaling to Hellraiser, hey, be careful. Don't come and don't try to kill me. You're gonna lose. I mean, obviously, we know that Hellraiser's in a really good spot, but he's gonna. I mean, just the posturing, it makes it a lot more difficult to sort of consider all those options, and it makes it a lot more uncomfortable for a player like Hellraiser in this position to push out. And that being said, though, with this warp in, there's no way Rail commits, right?
I think he's faking the pressure right now, because we saw, as Day 9 once taught us, when you attack, you expand behind it. The 4th has gone down, and that's, again, it's going to be a full base ahead of his opponent, but he's a full upgrade down. Surely he doesn't commit to this fight. As soon as he establishes as disruptors, you just run the heck away.
Yeah, I do like this warp in into the main. Maybe he's just... Oh my god, this disruptor shot! It picks off so so many Zealots there.
I missed it.
Oh, this is a... I mean, this looks like a pretty solid defense from Hellraiser so far. The Zealots get a very good wraparound, though. Hellraiser struggling a little bit in the main engagement while he is defending the main reasonably well. Another Disruptor Shot comes out. It forces Rail back, and thus far, in this fight, at least, I feel like it's another good hold by Hellraiser, honestly. +3 is on the way now for Rail. And he does have that Rich Vespine Geyser coming up. He does have that fourth Nexus, but his army is just not going to be able to stand up to the power of Hellraiser's army. We're looking at 8 Archons to 7 in favor of Rail, sure, but the Disruptors adding in are so strong. A couple Phoenixes are nice, and they do allow you to cancel out those Disruptor shots, but there's enough anti-air here that Hellraiser can reliably focus those down. And this defense here at this fourth with no shield batteries is going to be exceptionally difficult for Rail to pull off.
Yeah, Phoenixes are great, but try walking through, how many are we looking at? 7 Archons. Phoenixes will melt under them with +3. We do see the lift coming in. That Disruptor actually is going to get taken down. A very, very nice start to the fight here. Oh, the Disruptor flank! Purification never comes in. It manages to get some damage on some Archons, but not quite enough to do that critical massive damage. It looks like both players know this fight is very, very even. A bit of a stalemate in the middle of the map. Battery is going to go down here, and I love that for Rail, so he can make sure if a fight comes in, he can take an advantage.
I actually really feel like Hellraiser could have pushed through there. It can be very difficult to see sometimes, but a lot of Rail's Archons were extremely low. You see him moving a couple of them back to the third base to recharge on those shield batteries. He understands just how dire a situation he was in. Hellraiser's given him time, though, now to recharge those up. +3 is not quite close to done, but it's getting there slowly but surely. And that's the big advantage that Hellraiser has had all game, his upgrades.
Do you know what I'd love to see? And this is like in a rich man's world, you know, when everything is possible. Go and drop a battery underneath that prism.
Just drop like 5. It's not a bad idea.
Just drop like
really
5.
Not.
When there's Phoenixes, obviously it's a little bit hard to defend. They can get unpowered a little quickly. Oh, okay, this is cool from Hellraiser. He's just going to use his Stalkers, use that maneuverability to take a little bit of a trade here. He really doesn't want to be losing Stalkers at this point because they are very important for him as the core of his army.
This is weird part of the game, right? Because it becomes, especially for Hellraiser, it becomes such a balancing act on army composition because on the one hand, you need those Stalkers to focus down Phoenixes. But Stalkers are also terrible in a head-on army fight. Yep. So, in a way, it might even be in Rail's best interest to just cut the Phoenix production entirely. It would, actually, because Hellraiser has completely ditched the idea of Disruptors. He's now going into Colossi with Thermal Lance upgrade, with the extended Thermal Lance upgrade. So, the Phoenixes are... I mean, this army composition, if Hellraiser is able to get up a Blinkstalker Colossus army without Rail realizing that that's going on, then it's going to be exceptionally hard for Rail to deal with. But with this army move out here, that's so many Archons from Rail, and he's going to continue to be able to just make so many more with that Rich Vespine Geyser on his side. These Phoenixes are a little bit of dead weight, but he's got 12 supply in Phoenixes here, and he's got 12 extra supply, so it kind of works out.
Guys, I know the stream is lagging a little bit right now. I am looking as to why. I'm going to pause some of my own stuff. That should fix it a little bit. But bear with it, it will get better. I know the bitrate's dropping, but I have the stuff.
Fight coming down, though, here at the fourth base. And, well, the Phoenixes take a ton of damage flying on top of those Archons. A couple Disruptors coming in the back. More and more reinforcements coming in for Rail, but Hellraiser has started this fight very, very well.
Yeah, Hellraiser's tech is just overpowering that of Rail's right now. Disruptor's not able to get the shots off. Stalkers are going to start taking down the Phoenixes. That'll leave how many Disruptors alive? It looks like just a 1, maybe even none if it does get lifted. But the fight is just going so well. The Colossus getting microed in and out of that prism so they can get those 3 shots off as the second one goes afray. The blink forward here from Hellraiser. Supply Stefan in favor of our blue Protoss player and my Swiss friend. We're going to a game 3.
That's going to be it, man. I mean, PvP... more so than almost any other matchup, I feel like you have these situations where, I mean, also TVT if you end up, especially with like tank shots, but just the start of that fight was so much splash damage onto what was effectively a move commanding Rail army. So he just wasn't quite able to pull it out after that, which is a little bit unfortunate because I feel like he actually hit that timing quite nicely. There was no extended Thermal Lance. The Colossus count was not at a critical mass yet, but unfortunate that he just wasn't able to pull that out. At the end of the day, Hellraiser, he was in a bit of a rough spot all game. All he had really going for him was upgrades for a long time. But at the end of that game, he didn't even have upgrades going for him. He just took such a good fight that he was able to pull it out. And I loved the
Yeah.
plays we saw from him. I loved the idea to go into the disruptors. I loved the idea to switch out of the disruptors. I mean, Blinkstalker Colossus is not a common composition in PvP, but it was a great composition for him to go for given the circumstance.
Yeah, I think he was incredible in that game because the pressure was thrown at him over and over. Hellraiser moved out at the other side of the map once when he attacked kind of near the the fourth base even of Rail, but apart from that, he was kept so honest by Rail's constant pressure. You know, even just the immortal drops and the moving out. But Hellraiser never let his upgrades stop, whereas Rail did. Even when that final fight came in, I believe +1 shields was either done or it was about to be done. He let his tech build up. He didn't take economic damage. Even if he was never getting ahead, he wasn't falling behind. And there was a great defensive game there from Hellraiser.
Yeah, I mean, even just to sort of back that up, even though Rail did have more bases throughout pretty much the entire game, I'm looking at the delayed stream now, and Hellraiser had the exact same number of workers essentially. It was 65 to 64 in Hellraiser's favor actually. So despite the extra bases, Rail didn't really have any extra income. Which isn't necessarily a mistake. It's not to say that he should have had more workers, because you do need that army supply in order to be able to keep pace with your opponent. But it just sort of goes to show that while you are better set up to go into the later stages of the game, before you actually start mining out of those bases, you don't actually have that much of an economic advantage.
And we are getting into game 3 very, very shortly here, as we just make sure everything is good and I update the scores and lower my graphics a little bit. Because Penguin in the bottom right-hand corner of Death Aura, my favourite map in the current pool in terms of how it plays. It is the blue Protoss player representing Clash and Ukraine. It's Hellraiser.
Facing off against the Russian man in the top left. It is from Team Wardy, the red Protoss player. It's Rail, who needs to win this to keep his chances of advancing alive.
The real gangster of Russia. What about that?
Somebody in chat mentioned the Railgun of Russia, which I think is cool, except for the problem that there is already a player named Railgun.
Yeah, it's close. We call him the Rifle of Russia. Nah, it needs work. Okay, so we're looking... No, it's okay. We're looking at a standard game so far here to get things going. Neither player is going to do any real, like, forge shenanigans. We're not casting a Goblin game right now.
I'm a little bit sad. I mean, obviously nowadays, especially it feels like every year cannon rushing is less common, even in PvP. But these two guys have been known to bust out a cheeky cannon once in a while.
Hellraiser loves it.
I know, but not so much in PvP these days, right?
No,
more so in PvZ.
So, I don't know if you saw.
I've had the pleasure of being cannoned by Hellraiser before. I think I've had the pleasure of being cannoned by Rail as well.
Most likely.
So,
Goblin yesterday in PvP, cannon rushed into Proxy Stargate, into like 100 batteries, and Void Rays. It was a beautiful game of StarCraft. The way it's
that's one way to describe it. You may not like it, but this is what peak performance looks like.
Oh, it was. Pylons have gone down. Wait a second, am I missing one here? Where is the second pylon of my man? Oh, it's there. Wow, I'm so blind.
I was staring at Hellraiser's face. I'm like,
I'm looking at Rails, and I couldn't see the one between the geysers. It just wasn't there for me. It was gone.
Okay, alright, just say you're colorblind and you can't see red.
I mean, I'm not. And I can.
Yep.
I'm just blind.
Sure. That's from taking too many shots with your eye. That's how it goes, man.
Quick expansion Rail.
This is kind of what I like about Rail, right? Like, Rail, when he came onto the scene in, like, 2013, he was the guy who just cheesed all the time.
Yep.
And then he became the guy who cheesed all the time or played super greedy and then went into an all-in. And then, like, over time, it's been kind of like... I mean, we see this a lot with a lot of the Korean players. We used to see this with a lot of the Korean players when they would show up. They would start all-inning, and then they'd get more all-around. And we've seen that with Rail over the years. While he's always been the aggressive guy, the guy who likes to play unconventional StarCraft, he is very capable of doing, essentially, whatever he wants. In the last game, we saw, even though he ended up losing that game, he played an extremely solid aggro-macro game. And I think it's fascinating to see him going for this early in expansion. And we'll see whether or not it's able to sort of pay off, whether or not he's going to be able to get that extra chrono boost helping him out, maybe a little bit. Like, this should probably put him, like, 3 workers ahead?
Yeah, definitely. You would imagine so. Now, that expansion is going to get going. It has been scouted by Hellraiser, who made a sentry to open up the game. And he does have an Oracle heading across the map. What is at home here, though, for Rail? Because I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing a battery. I'm not seeing a Stalker. I'm seeing
Yeah.
an Immortal being produced. As long as Hellraiser at home takes no damage and he has 3 sentries and has a battery.
God.
This
He's
could
just
do so
made
much
8.
damage.
He's made 8 adepts. That's what he's made with it. He's just... There's nothing. I think he's gone very coin flippy here, hoping that there wasn't going to be an Oracle. And with the Oracle popping in now, he needs to do massive damage with these adepts that are now warping in, moving in. 5 Stalkers is a pretty sizable amount of defense, especially with a shield battery. He is going to be able to go after the probes here. He's going to be able to pick up 5 to start things off, but he's already lost 9 himself on the home front. This is actually not the worst little adept pressure. Keep in mind, though, that this is a lot more expensive than the pressure that was put on Rail's side of the map. So even though he does end up killing off almost the same number of workers, losing 4, maybe 5 adepts by the end of this is going to be quite a costly expense for Rail. Hellraiser putting himself in a very good spot. And I mean, we in a tournament, a best of 3, part of preparation is knowing when to take those coin flips. And wait, where is it? Oh God! Oh no! Oh no! Rail falling apart a little bit.
Yeah, it was misrallied, unfortunately, and ran literally the entire map straight into the natural, where it didn't even kill a probe. It was just taken down by a bunch of Stalkers. I think it maybe killed a Stalker, yeah, it did. But now Hellraiser's moving across the map. He knows he has an advantage. He has 2 Oracles to hit in the back whilst he strikes in the front with all of these Stalkers. Is there even another Immortal? No. Oh no, Rail.
Rail has an absolute mountain to climb right now, and I don't exactly know how he's supposed to do this. 3 Stalkers in the main to deal with these 2 Oracles. I believe he might catch one. No, doesn't even get that little consolation prize. And these Oracles force him to keep these 3 Stalkers in the main, which means that he has a decent sizable army at the low ground here to try to defend. I think he'll be able to stabilize, but he's going to be stabilizing with less tech as the Forge comes down for Hellraiser, less workers, and less army supply. Now, that's not to say that Rail is entirely dead, but especially in a mirror matchup, these things compound vastly more than they would in sort of a non-mirror matchup. Obviously, when you're using the same units, having more of those units tends to be good.
My God, the Oracles, one has 14 kills, the other has 3. There have been 17 dead probe kills. Quick math. We're seeing a couple of adepts walked in at Rail's proxy pylon, but the defense is solid. He still has a probe in position to throw down that battery to block off should the shade come in. He's so prepared for any counter pressure. And as you said, behind this blink on the way, +1 on the way. Sure, he doesn't play Immortals, but that just doesn't seem to be his style. Actually, he was a little bit slow to react again. We'll lose 3 workers. 3?
Nope.
2.
The battery, the hero battery. I mean, 2 workers, 2 adepts again. It's like, it's one of those things where if it was even, Rail could be like, all right.
Yeah.
Every bad trade here just makes things slightly worse. Now, a 3rd base coming down for Hellraiser. As he goes into the main, he's going to pick up 2 more workers himself. Keeps both Oracles alive once again.
So good.
Blink is almost done for both players.
And now these Oracles, all they need to do, even if they can't find the damage, they can look for stasis wards, they can drop those revelations. They're providing so much information that Rail isn't getting. When was the last time Rail saw the main? When there was just 2 gates. He hasn't seen
honestly, these adepts, while like they have a lot of utility, they don't need to do anything. They could literally just sit here in the corner of the map, and they're already forcing Rail to keep multiple Stalkers home, which is going to be a huge deal when it comes down to the actual main Stalker fight. We already have Hellraiser up 13 to 8 Stalkers. If 3 Stalkers have to stay home from Rail, what's he going to do in that fight? No amount of Blink Micro is going to win you like 5 Stalkers against 14.
Nope. And both players have Blink too, so you don't even have that advantage. Hellraiser doing great. I'm very surprised we didn't see more Immortals being produced here from Rail. He knows that Hellraiser isn't going to play Immortal himself. We do see a couple more probes go down. Finally, an Oracle dies, but the Oracle that died, I mean, it picked up a few kills. The other one has 15. 21 workers have gone down here for Rail in this game, and an Immortal, and 7 Adepts. I mean, resources lost tab. It's like 2.3k to 1.1.
Yeah, I mean, now we have a Dark Shrine coming in for Hellraiser, which I think is actually quite smart as well, because we're in the position where now Rail... We always hear the phrase, when behind Dark Shrine.
Yeah.
But like honestly, when you throw down a Dark Shrine when you're ahead, it can be so good because your opponent is now in a position where Rail has to cut corners.
Yes.
Like an observer, an extra observer is extremely expensive for him right now.
Yep.
So much so that he's only got one, and it's sitting kind of awkwardly at the 3 o'clock. Like there's a very decent chance. Obviously, we know there's no observer, but even from Hellraiser's perspective, he knows how ahead he is. He knows how expensive an observer is, and he knows how unlikely it is that there's going to be detection at every base. 2 DTs is not that expensive an investment, and he likes to play an Archon heavy style anyway. So you can just throw down DTs later on and just make them into Archons. It's a very, very good tech building for him to have regardless. He's got this upgrade lead now. He's got charge coming in. He is ahead in every single way. And Rail, I mean, he's not out of this. He's definitely not out of this. But we're going to need to see Hellraiser. Essentially, Rail is in a position where he needs Hellraiser to mess up in maybe even 2 or 3 fights.
Yeah, now the Dark Shrine was scouted, and we saw a couple of static defense buildings go down, a few of those photon cannons. But now let's just look at the Stalker force. It's huge in terms of numbers, 25 to 19. Upgrades are dead even. Guardian Shield making a big difference here, but look, even Hellraiser is using the terrain to his advantage. He's getting better concave. Look at these Stalkers dancing here for Rail under these force fields. And now the Nexus is a little bit of risk. And we're seeing a few probes go down. These Stalkers from Hellraiser finding exactly what they need. Meanwhile, there's still an Oracle sitting at home. There's still the threat of DTs at any point. There's a Prism. There's everything Hellraiser can do. And he is getting +2. That is going to finish any second, actually, Penguin.
Hellraiser taking this fight very slowly, knowing full well that his +2 was not quite ready to go, but now it is. And with that great upgrade advantage, he's got so many more Stalkers. He's got a better concave. He's got better upgrades. And there's just nothing that Rail can do. The aggressive patience blink comes in. GG is called. And that